Have you recently noticed that you're not quite as steady on your feet as you used to be? Are you ever worried about falling? Well, if so, then you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'm going to talk about one of the most overlooked and important aspects for maintaining optimal balance and stability. I'm also going to show you how to quickly determine whether or not you've got this problem and give you 2 simple steps that you can use to improve your situation. Let's get into this. There's a condition that affects the big toe called hallux valgus. And basically, it's the equivalent of a forward head position, but down in your foot. And I know that might sound like a strange comparison, but hear me out. Both of these problems are super common nowadays. Both involve deviations away from normal structure and alignment. Both impair functionality. Both predispose a person to pain and discomfort. And both have a negative impact on balance. First, let's talk about the normal position for the big toe, and then we'll compare that to a hallux valgus. A big toe in its normal position should be directly in line with the first metatarsal. So if I was to draw a straight line down that first long bone in the foot, it should come out the tip of the big toe. Now with the hallux valgus, the big toe and the first metatarsal are no longer in line with one another. Instead, that big toe angles sharply outward toward your other toes. And as you're about to see, this compromises not only the structural integrity of the foot and the joint health of what is arguably the most important toe, but also your ability to balance and stabilize your body in an upright position. In this clinical trial from 2016, researchers took 88 women and they split them up into 2 groups according to the amount of angulation that they had in their big toe. So there was a hallux valgus group and a control group with normal toe alignment. And both of these groups stood on a specialized platform that measured the amount of sway that these women had in a front to back direction and in a side to side direction. They also measured the speed of that sway. And what they found was that the group with hallux valgus had over 6 times the amount of sway that the control group had. And the sway was 250% faster, meaning that the hallux valgus group was way less stable than the control group. And in this study that was published in 2021 in the Journal of Foot and Ankle Surgery, the researchers again compared 2 groups of women. One group had hallux valgus and the other group had normal big toe alignment. And they used 7 different tests to assess for static and dynamic balance, mobility, and fall risk. And what they found was that the group with hallux valgus performed worse in every single metric. And the overall conclusion from this study was that the hallux valgus group exhibited impaired walking mobility, balance, and postural stability. And so the real question isn't whether or not hallux valgus impacts our ability to balance. The question is, what can we do to reduce a hallux valgus in order to improve our balance? Step number 1 is to set your feet free, and that means avoiding any footwear that alters the natural alignment of that big toe. Remember, the human body is an adaptive organism, and the more exposure that it gets to a certain stimulus, the more ingrained that adaptation becomes. So it should come as no surprise that if you're constantly shoving your foot into an anatomically incorrect position and keeping it there for hours on end, day after day, that you could end up altering the alignment of your toes and the overall shape of your foot. And the fact of the matter is that hallux valgus and bunions are way less common in cultures that don't wear shoes. And according to this paper that was published in the Journal of Perioperative Practice, ill-fitting footwear may be the most important causative factor in the formation of these kinds of problems. And so getting rid of any problematic shoes can go a long way toward getting you headed in the right direction. Step number 2 is to straighten that big toe out, to actually begin reducing the angulation of that hallux valgus. And one of the easiest and most convenient ways of doing that is by consistently using a pair of silicone toe spacers like these. In this randomized controlled clinical trial from 2018, researchers took a bunch of people with hallux valgus and they x-rayed their feet to determine the precise angle of misalignment at their big toes. They then randomly split them up into 2 groups. Group number 1 was the study group, and they received silicone toe spacers, which were to be worn at least 6 hours each night. Group 2 was the control group. Both groups received instruction in proper self-care and maintenance for their feet. At the end of 12 months, they were re-X-rayed, and what these researchers found is that the group that was wearing the silicone toe spacers had a significant reduction in their hallux valgus deformity. In other words, their big toes were measurably straighter. Well, at the same time, the big toes of the people in the control group had actually gotten 5 to 10% worse over the course of that year. And so this entire lesson can really be boiled down to one simple fact, and that is that balance and stability in a standing position will always be compromised when the big toe is in abnormal alignment. What I wanted to do here was give you a couple of super simple steps that you can take on a daily basis to improve the alignment of your big toes and positively influence your balance. Now, for anyone who wants to find out more about the benefits of toe spacers, I've got a whole video on that subject, and you can see that by clicking the link in the upper right-hand corner of your screen now. If you want to know about the toe spacers that I use and recommend, I'll put links for these in the description down below. Beyond that, I just want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button before you head out of here, and I'll see you next time.